Om Shanti. So welcome to this virtual green retreat. I would have never guessed we would be doing something like this. So this is a new experience for all of us. And this retreat is being thought about and coordinated by 3 people. So one is Joanna, from Isle of Man in UK. Many of you know her. The other one is Caroline Froth from Berlin in Germany. And I'm the third one, Valerian, from kind of between France and Switzerland. And it's really our great pleasure that you have all joined. For now, it says that there is 27 participants, but this morning I was looking at 48 participants. So let's see when people come in, when they don't come in, they are most welcome. So I just want to take you through a little overview of the retreat so you have a feeling for what we're going to do. The first part is that we have been thinking as this retreat as an opportunity to think deeply and to be able to converse with each other, because our wonderful Yagya has been given us so many incentives for Gyan and classes and yoga, but because of the lockdown and people being separated in many different ways, there hasn't been an opportunity for sharing and even for speaking about what's deep in our heart. For many people, the lessons that they've learned are still to be discovered and explored, and I think there's great benefit in exploring inside and in sharing with our players. So today we will look into appreciating and naming the lessons learned in the COVID crisis, the lockdown, the personal and environmental consequences of this situation. And we will talk about something that I personally like very much, which is, so I will take care of that first part. And then Caroline Freud from Germany will look into this part that is connected to deep inner sustainability. And by the way, Caroline, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Yes, hello. I'm just opening my camera. Thank you, Valerian. Can you? Here's my camera. Om Shanti, lovely to see you all. Thank you.
My God, you're in Los Angeles.
Yes, that's the wonderful background which Zoom offers.
So did you want to add something, Caroline?
No, thank you. I think you made a nice introduction, and I'm just very much looking forward to the conversations we will have. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that also during this session, we will have what we call breakout groups. So it means that through the Zoom technology, many of you might have done it already, but maybe some of you are not yet familiar with it. You will be put into groups of 4 people where you will be able to share in relationship to the questions that we will be asking you. So this will happen automatically. And then there is sessions where you will be able to feedback on the discussions that you have had. And there will also be space for discussions in small groups. So that's good. So without further ado, One of the persons that's with us today is Sonia. And Sonia had a very amazing experience because she did a big part of the lockdown in India. She was there when Daddy left the body. She was there for that amazing moments that she went through, and we were having a conversation or two about it together. And so the questions that I will ask you to reflect on in a minute are some questions that I would like to ask her. What has been her experience? Is there some lessons learned she wants to share with us? So that you have an idea of deep things that can be shared from interpersonal experiences. Sonia, would you like to come and tell us about you? I'm not introducing Sonia because I'm sure all of you know Sonia, but as you know, Sonia has been the coordinator of this amazing project of the Green Initiative from its start. She's also coordinating our UN presence at the COPs. And she's been taking this green work at heart. So Sonia, please go ahead. Your mic is not open, Sonia. So Manish, maybe you need to unlock Sonia's, yeah, there you are.
Thank you. Okay, hello everybody, and so nice to be part of this online green retreat, and lots of thanks to Valerian first of all, who's been doing the physical retreats for I think 10 years. We did the first one together 2010 maybe in Italy. And then Valerian has been carrying on these green retreats in Europe every year, very, very stable. So lots of thanks. And it's also Valerian's idea to do it online this time. And also thanks, of course, to Joanna and Carol for stepping in. And, the Environment Initiative Service, I feel, is even more important than ever in these times. And many are now connecting the virus and the pandemic with the climate change, and people's relationship to the environment is questioned. So whatever support we can provide in a spiritual way is very much appreciated. So whatever work you do in the green field, just carry on and keep the spirit high, and we take support from each other. And I also feel that, we go in the opposite way and energy-wise. So the more people are isolating themselves or have to be in lockdown or being lonely, the more we have to do the opposite. We have to be community builder, community creators, keep communication going. And now we can all do it on internet and the Zoom. And just imagine if the internet goes down. But for 2 months lockdown of internet, we will really need our soul consciousness by that time to connect and feel close to each other. And also there is a lot of fear in the world, and we need to do the opposite. We need to embrace each other and our differences, and we need to embrace the world. And this lockdown, I think many of us has taught us we need to embrace the situation you're in. So that was the big learning for me. And yes, as Valerian said, I was in Madhuban. It was like I was meant to be there when the lockdown happened. I had to go to the hospital in Denmark, and that's my trip to India got 1 week delayed. So I left 1 week later from Denmark and stayed 1 week longer in India. And that 1 week longer in India was when Daddy left the body, when the lockdown happened, and my trip got cancelled. So somehow, I was meant to be there, and it was a big learning curve for me. And especially the last week, where it was clear that we couldn't go to the village anymore, we couldn't go between Panda Bhavan and Gyan Sarovar anymore, we were locked down into the Gyan Sarovar. They closed the gate, so you couldn't go anywhere. And then they wanted all double foreigners to leave just very fast. And, you know, it was a bit stressful the last week. Some people say you have to go now, and we didn't want to go now. And then when we wanted to go, we couldn't go. And then some people say you go now and you go here. Some other seniors says you go totally opposite directions, and more or less every day the direction changed. And it became, I also understand what an Indian panic is compared to Western world. I live in Denmark. So the Indian panic is very different. People talk east-west, high voice, high pitch. And I also realized how quickly India became a police state. The police beat people up, they put the stick up, they beat people here and there, they humiliated people, and they put people without questioning into quarantine. So slowly I understood, when the police says you have to go, you should go. And you know, towards the end, I mean, I couldn't feel what was right to do anymore. I kind of lost my intuition. I normally have a very strong feeling what to do, but I didn't know. And this senior said one thing, and the other senior said something else, and the third senior said something else. And then the juniors stepped in to become the seniors, and then it became a big mess. And that's where I asked if I could work in the garden. For the last 3 days, I worked in the garden, and I had soil on my hands. And there is an expression somewhere, if you have soil on your hands, it clears your head. And it did help me a lot. So I became quiet, I stopped thinking, I just kept working, and then suddenly we got a very clear direction. Now everyone has to go, and there was no second feelings, and it was just good feeling. We left with very good feelings, all of us. And we had a very good trip. And I never had such a royal farewell from Madhuban. The whole Madhuban turned up, 100 people waving to us, 4 buses going to Delhi. So, yeah. Actually,
thank you so much.
Sorry? In old SML, we always, yeah, I don't know what happened.
I was thanking you because I thought you were.
Yeah. No, in old SML, we always used to say that when we did the SML, Self-Management Leadership course, we always used to say that you will follow a peaceful person. A peaceful person is a natural leader.
Yeah.
And here I had such a good, Dr. Pratap stood out for me from Global Hospital, because he both had the coronavirus with all the cases, all the big case worried, plus the government coming to him, wanting spaces, hospital beds for government, plus Daddy being ill and leaving the body, all happening at the same time. But Dr. Pratap, he was very peaceful. You could connect to him personally. He said, if your safety is the most important, and so somehow I tend to follow Dr. Pratap, and that's only because he kept very calm and he put the safety of us first. And this is something I will remember, you know, you feel taken care of when people consider your safety rather than the rules and the regulations first.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for this very true and very heartfelt sharing, Sonia. And you will be with us tomorrow, full day. I know that you have appointments today, but we're very glad that you can be with us.
Yes.
So I wanted now to go through the different questions that I would love all of you to reflect on. And just now you can see David from Canada. So we have people from Canada, people from Australia, people from India, people from Europe, of course, and Israel. And we even have someone who will join us from Colombia. So it's an amazing, I really feel all the friends of nature here today. So what I would like you to do is now retreat into a very inner space. Because I think all of us have gone through a lot. Like Sonia said, you know, the drama, destiny put us where we had to be. So I would like you to turn within and look at what new perspectives have you come up with during the lockdown and in the face of the pandemic. So this is the first question for you to reflect on. Which, if you look into your soul, and Manish can put up the first slide. Thank you, Manish. What new perspectives have you come up with during the lockdown and in the face of the pandemic? So maybe your perspectives have nothing to do with the actual pandemic, but still, it's been a very protected cocoon moment. So I would like you to take time and contemplate on that. So you, if you follow these instructions, you might have a pen and a notebook near you. So take notes of what have you discovered. Okay, so I would like you to now examine this second question. Maybe Manish can put up the second slide. What atmosphere have you created within yourself? And maybe if you don't like the atmosphere you've created within, you can still describe it and maybe say what kind of atmosphere you would want to create within. So again, I give you space to look back, go within, and contemplate. So as you can see, these two first questions look like they're not really related to the environment, but for me, what this period that I went through allowed me to see is that the relationship I built with myself will definitely have an impact with the relationship I have with the environment. So and by the way, thanks a lot to all those of you who took the time to answer the questionnaire online. It was very helpful. And I think for those of you who would like to know more about the UN, the initiative on the environment, maybe we could have another session where we do that. But this retreat is really going within retreat. So we'll do that another time. So the third question, Manish, can you put up the third slide? Thank you. Any newness or realizations in your relationship with the environment and nature? So how much of this lockdown situation has developed? If you could mute your mics, it would be great. So any newness or realizations in your relationship with the environment and nature in consequence to this period of withdrawal? I let you reflect again. So thank you very much. In a few minutes, you're going to be sharing in groups, but before that, I wanted you to be aware of the dynamics. So when we go into our groups, you will find yourselves at random with other people and choose a person to be the voice of your group and speak to each other like for maybe 10 minutes, and then afterwards maybe find what you find the one point you find very relevant that you would like to share. If someone in your group is taking notes, we are interested in this note sharing. So I hope this is clear. And one person of each group will be known to us. So when we come back, 15 minutes later, Joanna will be coordinating the feedback of the group work. And we would like to privilege the quality, not the quantity. But if each one of you is really going deep into his or her point for each group. I think we might have time. There's 33 of us, so it means there is less than 10 groups. So we might be able to hear everyone, and it would be lovely. And otherwise, please send us your notes if you have time, and we will compile everything. Okay, so Manish, you are the great orchestrator. So please go ahead and divide people into groups. Je crois qu'il faut que tu te connectes, toi, si tu peux. Okay, Manish? Enjoy your group time.
And I hope you had some productive discussions in your groups. We'd like to get a little flavor of your discussions. We've got 7 groups and we've got about 15 minutes. So I think you'll have assigned a spokesperson for your group. And so if they'd like to just share, you know, just 1 or 2 minutes of just so that we can get a little flavor of your highlights. So what I'll do is I have a list of people in the group, so I'm just going to call out the group or a couple of names of people who are in the group, and then the spokesperson from that group, if they'd like to just share, you know, a little flavor of your discussion. So I hope that's clear. And so the first group, which was breakout group 1, as far as I'm aware, that had Ezra and David plus a few others in it. But if the spokesperson from that group would like to share the highlights, that would be great. So
Om Shanti.
Shanti.
David from Canada. We had Tova and Timna from Israel and Ezra from Istanbul in our group. We had a very nice discussion of the first question, and then it was time to come back to the whole group. So yeah, we're hoping we'll have a chance to discuss again. But lots of similarities, you know, talk about deepening our study, spending more time in silence, the sky energy that many of us felt, you know, that lightness, spending time in meditation in the garden and watching nature around us, the blooming of nature, etc. Some people feeling like they were experiencing pieces of the golden age during this time. But also, you know, some fear that was experienced when we left our soul consciousness and were aware of the destruction happening around us. But then often what seemed to bring people back was observing how quickly nature was able to regenerate and renovate itself, and you could see the cleansing and the rest that was being appreciated by the elements, and how that you know, brought back some purity and some life in the nature around us. So there was a sense of inner strengthening, more bonding with family members. Lots of reminders in our extra meditation time of harmonizing sanskars within ourselves before we look at doing things outside. But of course, there were pulls from the coronavirus, from the Black Lives Matters things. That was some of my experiences here in North America. You know, many of the things that have gone on, maybe with our Lockett families, etc., have been pulls on that. And I think a real sense of the blessing of the family and the knowledge and the connection with Baba to take us through these times that we've been warned about for a long time they would be coming, and here they are. So I'm sure there's other things others would add. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, David. That was a very nice, a nice broad sweep of many of the things that I think we've all experienced. So thank you for that. Okay, moving on to group breakout room 2, and that was the group that had Georgina, Jane, Josephina. So if someone from your group would like to share highlights.
Giuseppina or the rest of the group, we didn't actually nominate someone, but I did make some notes. Shall I share?
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Georgina.
Yeah, we didn't really have time to get onto the second question properly, so it was mainly the first question, but shared common experiences of realizing that we're wanting to perhaps manipulate the drama, and the new perspective was really just to wait and accept rather than try and force things. Realizing that one's inner stage was affecting the people around us, seeing the drama as it was unfolding, and appreciating that human beings are actually more helpful to each other during sometimes during these kind of situations where we don't have so much control over our lives. Quite a few of us mentioned the sense of community. It doesn't matter whether you're a BK or not, kind of connecting more with your neighbors, the people around you who you maybe just don't normally connect with. Just the real appreciation of nature for myself. It was a bit like a big sigh of relief that drama had actually made us all kind of largely ground to a halt, and actually kind of have time to not rush around and go more within. So just a big sigh of relief, really, that change is happening anyway. Don't know. Other thoughts were shared about giving good wishes to the atmosphere and the world in general. The lovely things that people shared online about, there were little videos of ducks crossing the road in the middle of the city centre and all of that kind of thing. Just really an appreciation of the burden that nature has been under, but that there's a kind of chink of light. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time because I'm aware there's lots of groups to share.
Okay, thank you very much, Georgina. That's wonderful. Okay, the next group is the one which had Linda, Marguerite, and a few others in. So if your spokesperson would like to share some highlights. We did actually mean to tell you just to focus on one question, but that got a bit lost, so.
Well, we had, in our group, we had one person shared essence of all 3 questions. Two people did question 1, one person did half of question 1 and one person didn't do any of them. So we ran out completely of time, but just to kind of essence it, because what some people have said is already what we would have discussed, but there was a mixture of feelings between us all, and I've had myself in this as well, in question 1, between stress, excitement, enjoyment, and fluctuation. So that was the general feeling in relation to question 1, with all the, suddenly everything's shut and everything's new. And so that would be the answer I would give for that. And question 2, I think everyone went into deeper space. Everyone took advantage of the silence, and lots of things came up for some in relation to the extra meditation that we had. And question 3, which only one person shared, but I'll just put it into essence, was that I think that I had a connection with this as well, that is about simplification of lifestyle, that you know, that gave chance to look at how to simplify your life. And also, I mean, the lockdown meant you didn't spend time shopping and things like that. So it's simplifying of lifestyle, and for me also was about wastage, that there's still more energy you can use on cutting down on wastage. So that I hope the group is okay with what we shared here. Okay, that's me finished.
Great, that's great, Linda. Thank you very much. And moving on to group 4, which has Maria, 2 Marias, I think, and Nicole, if you have your spokesperson ready to share something.
Hello, this is Maria, one of the 2. Actually, we didn't have much time, and we were 5 in the group. So sorry, I didn't even note down who is the 5th member. Perhaps it would be that person to speak because you didn't speak at all. So over to you, unless someone else wants to share. So if the 5th member, I don't know who it was, is not so keen on talking, shall I share?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Different people with different realizations. One experienced the lockdown during the pandemic as an opportunity, as an experience of being detached from the nature, whereas normally is in the nature, and that was a different experience. So he had to see the new norm, and also to see how people relate it about money, because there's been a lot of conversations about money. And so it was like being detached from the nature and observing the rest. Another one was having a hard experience because couldn't do whatever does normally. But eventually there was a lot of appreciation for being helpful to understand more about the self, and the time that's the little time left. Another one was really taking it as a chance of like having it like a silence retreat, and another one felt that it was more an opportunity of realizing how to live the physical and becoming more beyond with all this time that was offered. And another one was really like the only person at the center, trying to work with, cope with everything, but also had the opportunity to be organized with emergency stock, and that was also quite important, and felt that it was connected with the nature and the elements, and also some gardening. And so that was a different element that gave the person confidence and the feeling of Baba trusting.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, okay, so we have only 3 more to go, but we're really running out of time. Perhaps we could just have one more in brief, and that would be Sarah, and one with Sarah and Robert in it. If you could just keep it really essenceful, that would be great, just to cover one more group at least.
Is it me, Sarah?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so we actually did not have Robert. We had Niranjan and Maciek.
Okay.
Yes, we did all 3 questions, but I'll bullet point them. Great answers, actually. one answer for number one, which was what was main learning. Actually, the value and importance of interacting with others, that came out. How we have unlimited vision and the rest of the world does not. And how living a yogi life in lockdown is so benevolent and fantastic. Nothing really changed for us. Solitude, silence, and stillness, and it just allowed us to have that. So that was great. Number two, which was about the atmosphere. Aware of the self as unshakable and aware of the self as shakeable. So both sides, and just this is what I gleaned from that, was there was just this ability to see what was really going on inside. Also more connected with souls. And for myself, that what I saw, I was in a comfort zone, and like a really beautiful comfort zone within Gyan. So let me shift myself out of that. And the third one was about newness. So how powerful nature can be as it reveals itself. The potential of nature. And similar to what Linda's group said, came up with simple living and more light. This is just all about light. Am I giving enough light? Shanti.
Yeah, very profound. Thank you very much. So I'm going to hand you back to Valerian now, who's going to do a meditation for us on serving nature and the elements. Sorry we didn't manage to get round to the last two groups, but hopefully another time you'll have a chance to share. Thanks to everybody. Over to Valerian.
Thanks a lot, Joanna and everyone. And yes, the constraint of time is felt when we would like to hear each one and yet don't have the time. So what many of you said on the list that we sent you on that Google Doc is that you wanted to serve nature. So this is an opportunity to do that. And for this, I want to invite you to just sit comfortably and maybe you can visualize this image that I'm going to share with you now, which is a few images with nature. So I would like you to just sit within and give yourself the time to be with yourself. Give yourself the time to just be with yourself, with nature. So I invite you, since we don't have music, to just share space and time with this little animal here. And I invite you to just sit in front of this lake and just picture that it's a nice summer day, but within this summer day there is a breeze and there is the freshness of the water. There is the warmth of the sun. The air around you, windy breeze. And just in front of you in the lake is this amazing swan. And you can sit in yourself, with yourself, within yourself. And through this bird picture, the whole animal kingdom, elephants and lions, insects and fishes. And from your heart, visualize all these souls, those who live in water, those who live in the air, those who live in the earth or on the earth. They are our little brothers and sisters. They have kept their beauty and they are in need of peace. They are in need of harmony. So right here in silence, open up to your dear friend, Shiv Baba. Be a channel for Baba's energy and bring the water element and the swan in front of you. Baba's sweetness, Baba's love, Baba's immense power into the water element. Into the animal kingdom. In silence, each one of us can bring back some harmony. And now I'm going to share with you another picture. So I would like you to look at this image and just visualize yourself sitting down in the mountains, feeling the presence of the high mountains around you, the earth element, powerful, strong planet of ours who have given us home, food to eat for generations. and generations and generations. So in my heart, I hold the gratitude towards the sun who has fed the seeds, this earth who also fed the seeds that have fed us for thousands of years. And I look at all these elements, the sky, the mountain, the trees, the earth. And I open up to Baba, to our sweet silent friend, to our beautiful, powerful Father. Because thanks to him, I can bring order and balance back into myself and bring order, harmony, and balance back onto this earth as a small sample of Baba's teachings through the yoga, of my experience of his presence. Now, for a few minutes, I look into the sun, disappearing towards the other side of the planet. The sky, the trees, the sound, the silence of the evening, the majesty of nature. And I invoke Baba's energy inside my heart. And I bring to this magnificent nature the God energy, the silence and the peace, the security and the love, the sweetness, and say goodbye to the sun and come back in this beautiful space that we have created together today. You can move your body a little bit and come back to the room. Thank you. I would like now to invite Carolyn. This was the break. We don't have tea break, but we have meditation break. I hope you enjoyed it. So I will now invite Carolyn to share with us for this next half hour. Please, Carolyn, go ahead.
Om Shanti, and once again, thank you so much for this nice meditation and creating this opportunity for all of us to share. And I particularly want to say thank you for giving this space to me to share some thoughts which came across, some concepts which came across me recently in connection with my Lokik work. I myself, I'm not a scientist, but I'm working with scientists, and there is a movement specifically in climate change and sustainability, which really works hard on laying a foundation or a legitimacy for spirituality to come in, or recognizing it, that these complex issues like climate change cannot be solved just by technology, finance plans, and political agreements. But there are social aspects, but there are also aspects on the level of consciousness. And so there are slowly some doors opening in the scientific and political arena with some courageous pioneers. And so this is very new to me. So I'm happy if you are just open and see what you can take from this. So I will share a little bit about quantum social change theory, and then would like to ask some questions on how you might see analogies to Raj Yoga philosophy, or how would we kind of, could add something to that. And also very interesting for me is if we use a different language as the language we are used to, like our BK jargon often, if we try to use different language and also some different concepts, it also does something, I feel, with my own realizations, and also, deepening of understanding, it's just different perspectives. And so this is just a very explorative space, and please also forgive me for my not perfect English. And let's see what we can take from here. So I share my screen with you. 1 second. So do you see my screen? Do you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we see your screen. It says Virtual Retreat 2020.
Thank
Part
you.
2, Deep Inner Sustainability.
Yes.
What's changed about it this new phase?
Thank you. So what I'm sharing here is actually a draft book from a professor called Karen O'Brien. She has mostly developed this quantum social change theory coming from quantum physics, but using the metaphors of quantum physics for describing social change. So the artwork, she's working with an artist, and also her book is on her website, You Matter More Than You Think, and she gives it open to public to discuss it before she publishes it. So it's not published yet. So my interest in sharing this, or in looking at this, is which analogies, entry or reference points can we identify between the concept of quantum social change and Raj Yoga philosophy, and what can Raj Yoga philosophy add to understand social change. As I said, this beautiful artwork is from Tone Bjorda, also in Oslo. So this is the draft book, and I don't read all of this out here, but what Karen does is she asks questions like, what if climate change actually is an appropriate time to consider how methods, metaphors, and meaning of quantum physics inform social change, in particular, our understanding of social change. And maybe 2-3 words about quantum physics, which often has we think it's very complicated and so on, but basically what I understand is that it changed fundamentally the way we see the world from a very disconnected materialistic understanding that matter is hard and we are disconnected and it actually doesn't matter what I say in this room because no one hears me, for example. Quantum physics has shown that actually even matter is energy and everything is connected. Like when we say something here, it reaches into the atmosphere. And we as BKs with the profound knowledge Baba has given us, we know that our thoughts, reach into the atmosphere. But in this hard science, this is not accepted. But here, this theory introduces or open doors for this spiritual knowledge or perspectives. So what does quantum social change has to offer, a theory has to offer? So these are just some quotes and I will just read them out to give you a little bit of an idea and then we can discuss that later. On this picture you see like things are connected, like everything, like each individual, each form of life is connected. Like this is the main, I would say, change in the worldview. We are living in a time when our actions can have a profound consequence of life on Earth. Crises always introduce opportunities to think and act differently, and they can open up new possibilities. So how can we transform the way we think about ourselves and our energy and our potential to influence systems in an equitable and sustainable manner? Part of the old worldview is that we we don't matter much. What one individual cannot really make a difference. But quantum physics totally changed that around and says, it kind of invites and calls for agency, saying that even if one person changes one's consciousness, it has an effect on the whole system because we are all interconnected. Relationships have, and that's also what Valerian has, took up in the first part. Relationships play a crucial role in systems because the relationship is what connects two entities. And so it is about relationship is the way that two or more things are connected, including the type and quality of the connection. And how is the nature of our relationships in an unsustainable society and a sustainable society. And here I think we can start to churn in terms of, what kind of patterns can we find? And Baba teaches us in terms of changing relationality, like the way how we relate to the world, how we relate to ourselves, to our body, to, of course, all forms of life. And maybe one, we can say, fundamental turnaround is, and that was also in the beginning what Valerian said, is from taking is to giving. And when we, one perspective we can say is like when we souls became empty, we started to take, and entering like the system and taking more than we also need on a physical level has brought the system into imbalance and actually into a very big problem now. The ecological system is totally out of balance. So something is wrong in the way we live relationship. It's the main pattern, we say it's transgressive instead of, you know, compassionate, and we don't even realize usually because we're not in touch unless we are conscious beings. So how do we contribute to social change? There is a term, intra-action, which just acknowledges that action is always part of a system and not separate. So it's like in a system, each single action, each thought. Intra-actions matter because each one reconfigures the world. We keep this old world alive by reproducing certain patterns. In our words, through entangled interactions, in other words, sorry, through entangled interactions, we are mattering in every moment. Yet it is the quality of agency that contributes to quantum social change. We create impact when we embody our inner pace of oneness and act from our deepest and innate values, such as equity, dignity, and compassion. So these are all statements from the person who is developing this theory, Karen O'Brien. And, you know, I think, I don't know how you feel about this, but I see so many entry points already. Like, for example, Baba says, we learn that it's not so much the action itself which has the impact, but it is the level of consciousness and the heart and soul consciousness, the yoga power we put into it. Like, it can be a very simple task of cleaning, and it can have such a different impact according to the consciousness we have whilst enacting this. We come to the end shortly, and I hope you are still with me and not overwhelmed by these concepts. Fractals are something which she's looking at as well. Nature produces such kind of forms. You can see here on the left side, maybe the honey bees who create this cocoon, or flowers who somehow have a very detailed and interesting form, which kind of has a pattern which repeats itself. And yeah, fractals are self-similar patterns that repeat themselves in every scale. We see them in nature, and we can create them through algebra or geometry. However, unlike natural or mathematical fractals, which are value neutral, human and social fractals embed values and replicate a particular quality at all scales. I don't know if you have seen, I haven't found them now, but there are pictures from the sky on the earth where you can see forms in nature, like even shapes of birds, like lakes or woods or hills. They form certain, you know, pictures. I think in Latin America they are quite known. And I also heard, you know, from Dadi Gulzar that nature in Golden Age also has shapes of beautiful images like birds or so. And looking at this theory here, what it says is it could be that, like, you know, our innate quality, our original natural nature in its expression creates a certain pattern and a certain fractal. I think that's what happens in Golden Age. So I think only 2 slides left. How does social change happen? It is not about change that other, change the world, change them, but it is about how do we shift the culture and systems that are perpetuating the unsustainable and equitable systems we experience now. In the German family, in the last 2 years, we met several times to look at how do we want to see BK culture in Germany change, and we identified some patterns, behavior patterns, but also in our system, how we operate, which are kind of keeping a certain level of being together, a certain culture, which is not a culture we feel is kind of the best we want. And so we kind of try to pinpoint these patterns, and which creates that culture and systems, and worked on them. And I just, as I said, sometimes you need a different language to get some new perspectives. So here are the questions for the small groups, but maybe before I read them out, is there anything, any question you have at this point, just for understanding? Not a long question, but just something fundamental and short. Okay, so then I read out the questions for the small groups. From what you have heard about quantum social change, what did you find most interesting? And of course, it were just little pinpoints of aspects of it. Could you see parallels to concepts of Raj Yoga philosophy through? So that's one question, and you don't need to discuss all of them, but just look at what you want to discuss. Through the second one, through which thoughts, views, and actions do I still replicate the old culture of being, and thereby the unsustainable old world, even in our Brahmin culture? And lastly, what potentials can I identify through my consciousness, vision, attitude, and action for empowering a culture within our BK community that allows Golden Age to emerge? Maybe I leave the brackets. Which potential can I identify for empowering a culture within our BK community that allows Golden Age to emerge? So that's it. I will post the questions in the chat, and I will also, you can make a screenshot also, but just to be sure, and I will post the questions in the chat, and I will also post a link to an online document where you also find the questions, and if you want to also can write there.
So do you want Manish to do the breakout groups now, Carol?
Yes, I mean, yes, that would be nice to prepare that. So there are the questions. And here is the link. You can just copy them, or if you click on the link, yeah, okay. Can you share the PowerPoint? Yeah, so I look at the questions later in the chat, so we can start the little breakout groups and start discussing.
They're all gone now in their groups, so you can speak freely, Carol.
Om Shanti, lovely to see you all back. Probably some are still on their way through the space. Okay, I think it, or I assume it was a bit of a challenging exercise, having been exposed to such a theory in such a short time with lots of information and then questions. But Valerian said challenges are good, and I agree. I would just like to hear from every group. Breakout group 1, we have BK Timna here. Whoever was in her group or herself, please share.
Why don't you listen to the groups that have not spoken last time?
Yeah, I thought so too, but I'm not sure who these people were, and because these are other groups.
Because the groups are different, yes.
Yeah. I also felt a bit bad about that, but please stick to 1 minute and we can hopefully make sure everyone will get a chance. That would be important for all of us. And then also you can elaborate in the online document. I post the link again because we're interested to hear your thoughts. So please start. Who is the first?
This is Timna. Can Georgina share? I mean, what the group talked about. Is it okay with you, Georgina?
I can do. Yeah, just in a line, or very shortly. We had 3 contributions, and it was in response to the thing about that you mentioned, Carolyn, about oh, what was it called? The thing about recognizing that any thought, word, or action that we have has a consequence. It kind of, the quantum social thing brings with it, you know, we are agents within a system. I think that's how you expressed it. And so we had 3 responses to that. One was about indigenous cultures' close relationship to nature, and the fact that indigenous cultures tend to view their part in life as very much part of a system. And that with Raja Yoga, we can have a tendency to see ourselves as outside the system in a way, because we're soul, you know, we're looking at it from soul view, but when we are in a body, we are part of a living system.
Yes.
And, the indigenous cultures have a lot of wisdom around reciprocity, which is to do with the natural give and take, that nature actually wants us to take, that actually benefits nature when we do take. But indigenous cultures give us a framework of not taking more than 50%, because you allow the rest of that harvest to be taken by other animals or be part of that system. So sorry, I'm just trying to condense this really, really quickly. The sister's response was to do with her own Asian background in terms of yin and yang, and the balance that you can be as part of a system, you seeing yourself as part of a system, balancing that. And the third contribution was from a soul who is in a situation where she is living that relationship with nature, because she is a paper maker and she actually grows her own paper, in other words, from scratch. You know, she grows the products, and she also grows vegetables which she eats.
Thank you so much. That was perfect. I would love to say more about it, but let's go to the next.
Stop. Yeah, sorry.
So group 3, David from Canada's group. Anyone from that group?
I think, Josepina, you took notes.
Okay, because we are losing time. Anyone?
I think that, sorry, I think David was going to talk just now.
Great.
Are you, Dave? Because I'm not sure, I've got a short memory, I don't know what complicated thing.
Laura, do you want to say something? I spoke last time.
Okay, very briefly, for me was important the interconnectedness. So the importance of that, like the title says, are more important than I think. And the relationship with Raja Yoga philosophy is that Baba says that if I change, the world changes. And so that was quite a nice impact. This quantum social change happened. So whatever I do will make an impact. It doesn't matter what the rest of the population, the world does. Then I think the importance of identify ourselves as a bestower or as I can't remember, but having the attitude of a deity in the golden age is very important. And David was talking about his shift from taking to share and somebody was just mentioned before, into just taking to give. That's it.
Thank you. The important pattern. The group from Linda and Maria. Linda, UK, Maria, UK. Thank you. Who's next?
Linda, can you speak?
Hello, Maria.
Hello, Caroline. Linda?
Maria, you speak.
But I didn't take notes. You were taking notes.
Just one thing which inspired you.
Okay. So the one thing that, I know that Linda really summarized it better than I did, but we agree that one of the similarities is that that everything is energy according to quantum physics, and so whatever we do has a repercussion or an effect on everything else. And we learned the same lesson from Baba in terms of karma. Whatever we do affects everything else. Whatever I think creates an atmosphere. So each form of life is connected. So we need to realize that, and how what we do affects everything else, and just be more change. I think what we need to change also, we said, is be more renouncing more of the things of the old world, not having an interest in anything of the old world.
Yeah, because that gives energy to it, right? Thank you so much, Maria. Lovely to see you. Then we have Marguerite, Robert, that group, Satya Kam, record group number 4. Hello, Robert, Day, and Marguerite. Please share with us your thoughts. Satya Kam.
Hi.
Hi.
My thoughts around this was that when we change, the world changes. As simple as that. This is the, strikes me what the essence of the quantum social change is about. Us personally making effort and having a very great effect on the world, rather than thinking that I'm unimportant because I'm just one out of 8 billion people, thinking I am the powerhouse behind this change, with Baba behind me, supplying all the energy. Simple as. Next.
Great, thank you. There's something about the special time for change somehow. I wonder if quantum physics comes up with that as well. They do say something about time for change too. Thank you. Michael, Sharon, Sister Krishna, Talia. Talia.
Okay. Yeah, some of the concepts were very new to some of the group, and that was getting our heads around that was a starting point. As has been said, the parallel with quantum physics and everything being a field of energy, and we're all connected, and that, you know, linking to the point that had just been made about when I change, the world will change. And that energy of connectedness, we're all one family, but it goes beyond humans. It's humans and nature, and that energy is out of balance at the moment, obviously. But the final point was, if we all focus on positivity, that will bring us to golden age. So, it'd be interesting to read this book. It sounds very very entertaining, and some good concepts there. Think positive, and we'll all end up in golden age.
Yeah. Yes. Great. Thank you so much. Sarah Nimla Niranjan Mira.
Yes, I'm Shanti. So what came out as interesting was the whole concept of science and spirituality, and a reference or a reminder about Jensi Ben speaking with Jem Bendel, and how really maybe it's time for Raj Yoga to show itself parallel to what others call spirituality, like you were saying. Is it to do with the language? But using the parallels of that. A unity came up in the sense that we're all about one family, one father, one direction, one community. And it's that unity that gives the power. And that was with regard to the parallels. You know, when you look at quantum physics, the sort of paradoxes of, they call it the chaos theory, but actually everything is very ordered and going in one direction. So that came out. And also karma philosophy, but of course quantum physics, my understanding is it doesn't have anything to do with karma, but certainly the rebalancing, so the giving and receiving. And this came up with regard to the patterns and the fractals that we see. And what came up in that discussion was the idea that we are quite addicted after half a cycle of negative patterns, internal and external. You know, what we see in the world I'm thinking it, so I spot it. Dodgy, I'm thinking dodgy, so I spot dodgy. And am I thinking beauty, and I see beauty? So the fractals are internally, they're deep sanskars. And am I creating those now?
Yes, great, thank you so much. So we are coming to the last group. Everyone is very disciplined, thank you. Jane, Nicola, Patricia, Shantanu. Hello.
Hi everyone, and a big hello and welcome to Madhuban. So in my group we were Nicole, Patricia and Jane. And in the first question, what really resonated to most of us was the fractal patterns and the image of the droplets. The fractal was more like what I do. Many people would copy it and do it. And as Baba also says that in what you do is like on the showcase of the world, and people would follow it. And that's what are the memorials all about. If we are at a flying stage, Paris is full of angels, statues, and so things like that. And Jane came up with a very beautiful example of cauliflower, where one cauliflower socket is replicated in that entire cauliflower. So that was one thing. And also one thing that really sound was like experiencing more soul consciousness that helps us in going into more sustainable approaches. That was Nicole who shared that when we are soul conscious, becoming sustainable is much more easier, because that's what is all about. And Baba is also asking us to sustain this stage of soul consciousness. And one more thing which we shared was the Parkinson's effect, where we deliberately assign more time to finish something than it really needs. For example, if we project needs this much time to be finished, we deliberately assign it this much time, and that really hampers our effectiveness, that really hampers our potentials. So that's it. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you so much for participating, and I really hope you use this link which you see in the chat for keep sharing your thoughts, because it was very short time for coming back, but we hope you enjoyed it, and I give over now to Valerian. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Caro, for these very thought-provoking moments. And yes, as you mentioned, we didn't have time in the first breakout to go in the 3 questions. And this time also not so much time. So please feel free, if you have time before tomorrow or even during next week, to go into this link, this Google Doc link, to put more thoughts on the internet paper. So we wanted to say goodbye to you. Really thank you for all your presence, your warmth, your interest. I think this is a fantastic group. I'm really glad I'm part of it. And tomorrow we will look into deep inner sustainability and the relationship between I, the soul, my body, and nature. So we do hope it will be, you're all able to be there tomorrow. It seems some weren't able to be there today and plan to be there tomorrow. So a good afternoon evening or night, according to where you are on the planet. And looking forward to being with you more tomorrow. Let's finish with a moment of silence so that we all unite into that very special space that we know. Thank you. And before I end the conversation, I really want to thank Manish. He's been amazingly helpful running the show behind the screens. So thank you, Manish, and goodbye, everyone. See you tomorrow. Good evening, good night.